Hey everybody, welcome to the Engadget Podcast for the week of July the 29th. My name is Brian Heater. I get to talk because I'm sitting in the middle. Who am I sitting in the middle of? Ben Gilbert is on my right.
Hey, hi.
Hey Ben.
Hey, you have so much energy.
Are you in the screen?
I think.
Are you on screen right now?
I don't really know.
In the frame? Okay. Ben is way too comfortable, so we're going to do something to change that.
I like this.
Over the course of the next 45 minutes
It's a rainy day. I'm relaxed.
It is a rainy day. Can you tell? Because I'm drenched.
Are you?
Yeah.
You look a little shiny, but you're not drenched, I wouldn't say.
I'm glowing.
Sure, let's go with glowing.
On my left is Dana Woolman. Hey, Dana.
Hi.
How you been? You've had a busy week.
I have had a busy week.
We forced you to come on the show today because we're pretty much talking almost exclusively about reviews.
Reviews / the Moto X.
Which is, let's start off with the Moto X, shall we? So this is, this is obviously the big news of last week.
Wait, it's not pronounced the Motox? That's totally, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's actually a collagen injection.
Oh.
It's actually botulism in the form of a phone. So we actually got to spend some time with this.
Well, not us, but other people did.
We do the collective here.
Sure.
Let's go with many arguments about that.
I was inside Joseph's brain today looking at the Moto X. It was incredible.
It's like a really disgusting episode of Herman's Head you lived through.
And we're one Herman's Head reference in.
Yeah.
Less than 10 minutes into the podcast.
Yep. First and only. There's got to be a Herman's Head podcast out there, right?
I really hope not.
Maybe.
You would.
You could probably
would listen to that. You're absolutely right.
You could get every cast member, save for the one that's still on The Simpsons.
Anyway.
You're Lee Smith.
I don't know who that. I don't.
Lisa Simpson.
Got it.
Yeah.
Understood.
So the Moto X, that was the big news of last week. We actually got to spend some hands-on time with it. I touched it. I looked at it I admired it from afar.
I didn't even touch it. I looked at it from a few inches away.
This is a super nice
phone. They were about
phone.
to photograph it and do their unboxing video,
Yeah.
so they didn't want me getting in the way.
What are your impressions? My impressions are that it's a beautiful thing. It reminds me of the One in the nicest way possible.
You're being sarcastic.
No, it's a nice looking phone. You don't think so?
It's okay.
I think the fact that we accidentally left 3 big black scratches on the white backing within minutes of unboxing it is not a testament to our incompetence. I think it's a testament to possibly some mid-range build quality to match a mid-range phone. It is essentially a mid-range phone, as hyped as it's been. It's
in our defense, I think it could probably be a testament to both of those things.
Yeah,
fair.
That's true.
So obviously, you're going to want to customize it. You're going to want to put some wood paneling on the back of the thing. You're going to want to.
Is it just paneling? I thought it was wholesale wood. Like the whole thing
is it
was
actually
just straight
wood?
up wood.
I don't know.
I'm under the impression that is part of the deal, that you can have one built in wood. I think there's a variety of different wood types, actually.
That is. Yep.
I'm totally not joking.
Yep.
That's not a joke.
Yep.
Yep. All those things.
A backplate made actually of wood. No, you're right.
Yep. Real wood.
That's great. Why not?
Yep.
I think it's a fan. No, I honestly I don't know. I had a little argument.
I think there's some nice options too, right? There's like mahogany.
Yeah, I also had a conversation, maybe a heated conversation with Terrence about this earlier, that I think this is a great idea.
Wood on the phone?
Being able to customize the phone.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, right? I mean, there's like how this is the argument that we have every single week is, especially if you're a company like Motorola, who, let's face it, over the past 5 years or so hasn't been able to make much of a splash in the smartphone space. So how do you set yourself aside? I mean, it's not going to be the components. Everybody's pretty much using the same components. You could skin up Android all day long, but who ultimately really wants that? And they've made a few adjustments here and there. Obviously not too many because it is a Google company. Sure. So what about customization on the phone? I mean, I haven't seen any companies really go, whole hog with this.
I think the closest it gets is like the really bright Lumia colors, maybe something like that. But
or
your case, or
exactly.
Your whatever.
Is offering your phone ahead of time in 4 or 5 different colors, which is pretty standard. But
and that's the most, though. Yeah. But otherwise, you're right. There's totally no customization. But speaking to your point about Motorola and not really having been a beacon of innovation across the past few years, it's been interesting because I've had a lot of arguments with our mobile folks about this, where to me it makes no sense that Motorola, as a Google-owned company, you'd think that they would be making the flagship Android every time, right? Like that Google would use that as their base for making their big example phone, right? Like this is what you can do with Android. And it's shocking to me they don't. And it seems like with Moto X, they're kind of trying to do that, albeit in a mid-range spec model.
I mean, there's a very clear reason why they haven't done that, and that is, for legal reasons. When they were going to buy this company, they not even legal reasons so much as competition reasons. With the fact that they've got to work with all these other manufacturers, they came out, and we're very specific about the fact that they're not going to play favorites. So you've got to maintain that at least for a few years.
Well, why does it have to be seen as play favorites though, right? Like for me, coming from the game world, like there's a very direct equivalent in what Epic Games does with the Unreal Engine, where they license it out to a trillion different people, and it's the de facto standard for game development. And at the same time, they make Gears of War, which is the example of Unreal Engine that they show off to the public, and they show to developers to say, this is what can be done with our engine. And so to me, it's like, you're right, there is that one example where it could be looked at as they're overtaking all the other cell phone developers by making the best thing and showing favoritism, or they could just be showing everybody the best way to do it, right? Like, that seems totally legitimate to me. I don't understand why that has to be one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it's a fair point. But again, you know, I don't know that they're really in a position right now where they can necessarily make the best phone out there, especially when you're working against a company like Samsung, and they do want to keep those in place. And there is a standard. I do suspect that this is going to be something that they're holding to for a year or two. That's probably going to go by the wayside. And certainly we're going to start seeing probably more vanilla Android. We had this conversation last week, which I think is kind of interesting about using this, and in a sense, really using this as a litmus test from a software perspective, from the perspective of kind of rolling out subtle updates to Android, trying them out on the public, and making that part of vanilla Android in the future. So, like, if you go with Motorola, you'll know that you're going with a phone that's offering features before anybody else gets them.
Sure. And that's all neat. And I think that's part of what would convince me to get something like that, is that you know that you're on the forefront of that, and you have the best possible support because you're working with the company that directly makes Android, right? Like, that seems like a pretty fair bet if you're an average consumer. And it sounds like, from what I read in the previews we have up, that this seems like that next big step for them with Motorola, that they're trying to make this a flagship device, and that it's like a bigger integration with Google.
Not flagship in the spec term, in the spec sense of the word. Not like specky, a specky.
Well, with
flagship,
consumers, right? I don't care about specs. For me,
much hyped
for Motorola.
Yeah, a lot of it's going to be heavily promoted.
Yeah.
Right.
They expect it or hope it'll reach a really wide swath of consumers. You know, not just nerds like us.
I mean, I hate phones. You know that. I think phones are terrible.
You carry a feature phone, a flip phone.
I do, all the time. I still have an LG Charger.
You're the guy keeping phone booths around in New York City. That's exclusively your territory. But speaking of Google, obviously the really big, two or three big pieces of Google news in the past couple of weeks. I think the biggest one of all of them is probably this Nexus 7, which, as we said last week, was kind of interesting that they led with this. I mean, traditionally in an event like this, you've really kind of positioned it around Android, but there's not really that much exciting.
Android seemed like kind of a footnote in that event, right? Like, they were like, oh, and they come with 4.3, it's still called Jelly Bean, let's talk about other stuff.
You know, when they move on to another dessert, right, that they've got to do.
So the last time we did a podcast, right, the device had been announced like the day before or something like that, and we had a lot to say about as far as initial impressions, but the review only went live, I guess, since the last podcast, so now we're talking about what we actually thought of it.
Yes, and there will be strap on, because there will be a lot of that on the show today. Impressions haven't changed too much since the last.
Who did this review? It was Terrence?
Brad did. And it's a pretty great tablet.
Pretty good. This is what we said last time. It's a good
great.
price.
We held off on publishing our tablet buyer's guide so that we could account for the Nexus 7, and I'm glad we did. It's pretty tops for us.
It seems like the only other option outside of, like, if I'm Joe Consumer, not the only other option, but it seems like if I was going to suggest a tablet to my mom or dad, and they're like elderly, I would get them an iPad or that.
This over
like,
a Fire,
that seems
though?
like
the Fire is a pretty good thing.
But the Fire has like advertisements and stuff on it, right?
Not if you pay enough.
Sure. Fair enough.
I think
that's another good option.
I think the Fire is probably the most user friendly. But again,
from
it,
I legitimately don't know.
It's basically an interface based around content. So it's just like, and Android traditionally has been a little harder to teach to people.
Sure. Mm-hmm. It's a little more PCE.
Yeah, but for $229, don't really have a lot to lose on that front. No. But I mean, to me, the interesting thing here will be watching how all of the other Android manufacturers kind of respond to this, because we're at a point now, $239 for really nice tablet. Again, and this is a similar conversation in the smartphone space, is how do you how do you set that apart? I mean, if you're Amazon, you can probably bring the price down even further.
Sure.
You're subsidizing that tablet. But it's interesting to see Google come out with the device that might kind of push everybody else out of that market, out of at least the low end.
So why can they do that with tablets, by the way, and not cell phones, right? Like the Nexus 7 is the demonstration for a good Android tablet, and they make Android, and there are other...
But it wasn't manufactured by Google.
Okay. So they work with separate manufacturers every time.
Yeah, well, they've always done, and in the handset space, they've always done Nexus, which is what that comes down to.
Okay.
But yeah,
excuse my ignorance on some of this. No, folks. I'm not super into
we'll talk about video games soon.
I need that. I need that, Brian.
You got something over to the side. But yeah, that's a big difference. Is that it was Asus on this one, right?
And it was on the last one too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, which is interesting because they don't often go back to back on something like that. So clearly they liked what they saw.
Yeah, at least on the phones, they've given different phone makers some love, but I guess they have a thing going here, and we'll see if the Nexus 10 is also Samsung like it was last time.
Yeah,
it's rumored to be. I mean, but we take rumors with a grain of salt. But
why would they not have the same manufacturer for the Nexus 4, the Nexus 7, and the Nexus 10?
It's the same, and they do it on phones because again, I think it's this idea of not playing favorites.
It's so bizarre to me. It seems like the worst way to work with. It seems like more business friendly than consumer friendly, right?
I don't think so. I think it's consumer friendly from the perspective, and if this is in fact how things work behind the scenes, who knows? But if they are working with the best company because you're not going to go with a Samsung for a low end tablet. For a $239 tablet, you're not going to go with a company that's charging.
What are you trying to say about Asus? What are you trying to say?
That they can bring the cost down.
About Asus?
That they can do an affordable tablet that Samsung is totally incapable. Even though they're
Samsung is totally incapable of
doing that. They've proven it thus far, despite the fact that they're making all of the components for these devices, that they don't want to bring the price down because they want these to appear like premium devices. So I don't think Samsung even really wants to be in this game, at least at this point, without making a device that honestly looks kind of cheap.
Okay, fair enough.
Like the S4 Mini, for example. Like if you get a mid-range or a budget device for Samsung, it's sure as hell going to look like a budget device. So great tablet. You should probably buy it for your grandmother, right?
Gotcha.
We were going to do another Google thing. Let's come back to that. Let's skip right to you because I want to.
Why do you want?
I'll give you some love.
Oh, thanks.
You brought that nice little gadget over to right there. So
right.
Let's talk about this thing that's going to revolutionize the gaming industry as we know it.
That's not the truth. But
strap in, everybody. That's what I meant to say earlier, by the way.
So the Shield is... I was going to bring it up when you brought up the Nexus 7, actually. Yep. Because, if you're going to... I wouldn't say get this instead of a Vita or a 3DS or something like that. If you're going to get a
You might say
device,
get it instead of a 3DS.
I might... I don't know. 3DS is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great games on it at this point. But this is a really good device to use in your house like a Nexus 7, for Spotify or media or whatever else. I was just playing music off of it this morning, just kind of walking around. I could listen to it in the shower. It's $250. So it's $10 more than your Nexus 7. Yeah. Actually, that's a lie. I'm sorry. I'm confusing it with the Vita. It's $300. Okay. So it's a damn sight more expensive than the Nexus 7.
Yeah, but I mean, $300 is not ridiculous for a tablet.
Right. So it's comparable with other tablets of that range, and it's able to do a lot more than that. So you can play PC games on it via streaming if you have a super fancy NVIDIA card, a 600 series GTX or better GPU. And it's pretty nice. It's just a really nice device. Have you used it at all?
Yeah, I've got
a pretty screen. It's well built.
It's nicer than the 3DS.
It's certainly nicer than the 3DS. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I was really pleasantly surprised, and I know I told you this offline, but really pleasantly surprised to see how much you enjoyed this device. I feel like...
just pleasantly surprised to see you enjoy something.
Not Ben specifically, but and not to toot our own horn, we try to make all of our reviews fair and objective. Sure. But a lot of the press around this in the beginning wasn't just that it was innovative, but that was kind of a weird
It's still
device.
A weird thing.
And a lot of people question the utility of it, the usefulness, what problem was it actually solving. But I think you made a really good case for it. Not for everyone, but...
definitely not for everyone.
I really liked your argument that it is a really fast Android device. And not the lightest portable handheld or the cheapest, but makes for a really good cheap tablet substitute.
And that's so important, though, right? Sitting comfortably and being able to... I know this is so stupid because I feel like...
sucks on this, by the way.
Does it?
I mean, I was...
What's wrong?
It's just not loading this Engadget site that I've heard
that's because of the Engadget's app on
and
portrait devices.
move on.
Let's talk about that. But yeah, no, it's really important to note that, like, I don't know, like when you're like laying about in a couch and you're trying to like hold a device and you want to like maybe have something to drink or whatever, if you just want to like put it down, it's not really, there's no way to do that. And
typing on this
stuff.
sucks. I'm gonna say that.
Typing on the Android screen itself does kind of suck. You don't do it very often, but it does suck when you do have to do it.
I do like being able to navigate our site with a joystick.
You can do that. You can navigate lots of different apps using the joystick. It's kind of inconsistent across all the different apps, but for the most part, you can use it for navigation or for controlling play, pause, etc., etc.
Let me navigate our site
on Chrome. You should be able to go up and down with the left stick. No. Okay, all right, that's working great for you, I see.
I mean,
but in general, it's a really nice device. Yeah. It's really well built, and it's if you're like in that market, if you're somebody who has a really nice PC, if you want a good handheld, if you want maybe a tablet, it's totally a reasonable replacement for that. So
are we having video problems in the? No, is it streaming for you now? Okay, I'm just getting some feedback, and okay, there we go. All right.
We were earlier.
Okay,
it should be good now.
Everything is fine. Everybody's 5 minutes behind. So who are you recommending this to?
People who are crazy and have a lot of money. No, people who.
So our core audience.
Our core audience, exactly.
Crazy billionaires.
It's for like relatively hardcore PC dudes, or people who are in the and also people who are in the market maybe for a tablet. Maybe people who have an older Nexus 7 and want a replacement and also have a PC. You certainly have to have a gamer bent, right? Like, I wouldn't suggest this to somebody who just wants a tablet. You probably should.
I mean, the screen is way too small.
The screen is too small for regular stuff. It's really amazing for PC streaming, though, right? Like, playing high-def, top-of-the-line PC games on a 5-inch high-def screen in my hands is really nice, right? Like, there's a lot to be said for being able to do that and not have to sit at like a desk with a monitor and whatever else. It kind of sucks.
It is. I mean, it is crazy just how bulky the. I mean, obviously all the internals are in the controller itself, but like how little of this device is actually screen at this point.
A tremendous portion of that is just battery and controller and stuff.
But you said it makes sense, right? I mean, you really appreciated the hinge design. It sounded like it was comfortable to hold for really extended gaming sessions.
Sure.
I mean, you're holding on your lap, though?
That's the thing, though, right? Like, if I'm playing it at home, I'm sitting like this, right? Like, hopefully people can see at home, but like I'm
not like
resting
with a
my
tablet,
hands.
really, right?
Just get in there. Just get in there with the camera.
Right in there, yeah. But it's comfortable like that. But if I'm sitting on the subway, like I'm not gonna hold it like this for 5 hours, right?
Yeah.
Like or an hour or 20 minutes even. Really, it kind of sucks.
Hopefully you're not on the subway for 5 hours because God help you.
It's horrible. But it's totally good for portable gaming at home, if that makes any sense. It's like not a portable system, but it's portable within your house.
It's much
Don't
better.
Put it in your bag.
I think tablets pave the way for that. I think if you can explain to someone in a way that doesn't sound stupid that you like to sit on your couch and watch Netflix on your tablet instead of on your laptop on the coffee table.
Sure.
You can probably explain to someone why you'd want a game.
It's literally exactly that. Like it's as easy as like I'm doing something, I'm doing mail or whatever, and I want to eat a meal. I can just like put it down and press play on a button, and it's playing something comfortably in front of me. Like I made the reference to.
Is that better than just like propping your smartphone up?
Yeah. Propping my smartphone up on what? On the stand? On a sweet stand? You got a sweet smartphone with a stand on the back of it?
I'm just saying, like, you know, when we're talking again about this really small screen.
Sure. Well, 5 inches is bigger than my screen on my phone.
It just seems like it's one of those things where to sort of like explain its existence, you've got to kind of give all these different caveats.
There are a lot of caveats.
And so let me ask you this. I mean, obviously you've spoken. You know, you were at E3. This thing was around E3. You've spoken to, I'm assuming, a lot of NVIDIA folks about this device.
Sure.
What are their expectations for it?
Man, that's a great question, and I don't think that they have a clear answer for that. They have said that they want to make it an annual device. It's the first Tegra, right? Not Tegra? I get called out in this every time.
Tegra.
Yeah,
Tegra. I said Tegra in front of an NVIDIA person. They freaked out at me. It was a whole thing.
It's not a Kathleen Hanna side.
I don't mean to do. I'm sorry. It's Tegra.
That was for one person.
Tegra 4. It's a Tegra
It's
reference,
a Tegra for the one
Everybody.
person in the audience. The one riot girl in the audience.
So it's I think expected to be their way to show off their chip every year, their big mobile chip. So this is their big Tegra 4 device, and It does. And also it works with all of their GPUs.
Yeah.
So it ties all these other technologies that people already have of NVIDIA's into one.
But they know this is going to be a boutique device then.
Oh, absolutely. They know they're leveraging their hardcorest audience basically.
It's just it's I don't know. It just strikes me as a little crazy to sort of like come up with this proof of concept device for a chip that's, let's be honest, is probably going to be in everything anyway. I mean, I'm sure that they pumped a tremendous amount of money into R&D on this thing. It's a really nice device.
It's also to help. I mean, if it does well, then it bolsters their sales for all these other things, right? For their GPUs, for their grid server technology, for their GeForce Experience software, which is what runs it. Like all these different aspects of NVIDIA stuff go into the Shield, and so it's kind of the thing that ties together all these disparate aspects of NVIDIA, and I think that's a part of it's also, to be clear, not like something they sell at GameStop and not something they sell like on Amazon. It's something you buy from NVIDIA.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's something they're making 20 million of and hoping for the best.
It definitely feels like, in the way that we're in such a kind of like a in-between space between like smartphones and tablets, and people are trying to figure out how to split the difference between those two. This is in this weird in-between gaming space in the way that like an Ouya is in that weird in-between gaming space where everybody's kind of trying to figure out what the next step is.
But at the same time, I feel it's really important to emphasize that this is, like, Android gaming is god-awful. Like, let's be completely clear. Android gaming is not good. Android gaming is
Jet Ski game
very bad.
Seems pretty cool.
No, that game actually is not good. You mean Riptide, whatever? That game's kind of sucks, actually.
Angry Birds, though. We can all get behind Angry Birds.
I actually am not a huge Angry Birds fan.
Okay.
I like that guy.
I do like
But I mean that to say that the experience across all these different Android things is totally inconsistent. On an Ouya versus a Shield versus
because it's
a
Android.
Nexus 7
I mean, Android's inconsistent across
completely,
everything.
but there needs to be some sort of a standard. If you're using a controller, like there's the Moga Pro, there's a lot of different Bluetooth and various Android controllers you can use, and the experience is wholly inconsistent across all of them, and that's not acceptable. Like there needs to be a standard for that. Otherwise, it's not really worth playing any of them. Even Grand Theft Auto doesn't work well on it. Like nothing really works well on it.
So whose job is? I mean, I don't think Google is probably. Well, I guess they are making a bit more of a play in gaming right now. But obviously, it's more casual gaming.
It is more casual, and it's more like leaderboards, multiplayer, back-end stuff. It's not like let's set a standard for controls, which is like kind of a big deal.
Yeah, but again, I mean that just kind of comes down to the way Google handles their Android business.
Absolutely.
Across. So is this going to take? I mean, is this going to take like I don't know? I think a couple months ago we thought it might have been Ouya, but they haven't been super successful. Is it going to take one company to be the Android gaming company?
I don't know, man. Like it's hard because how do you incentivize developers, right? Like developers aren't selling. There's huge piracy problems on Android, so that in and of itself is a major problem. And there's no way for them to easily develop something where their people who play their game can expect the same experience across all these different devices. So it's like there's not a lot of incentive there for quality game developers to make quality games on these devices because it's all totally balkanized. It's complete. If you're a company that's in it for monetization purposes, that's fine, and you have no problem making all these little iterative ports and using microtransactions and whatever, but it's not going to lead to quality stuff, and that's my worry.
Yeah, it also just as exciting as Ouya seemed 6 months ago, just this idea of like a set top Android gaming console. It just doesn't seem that appealing anymore at this point. I mean, it certainly doesn't seem like it's going to be the thing to replace the console in the future.
No. Well, I shouldn't say no definitively. Like all of a sudden, everything couldn't change in a year because it's totally good.
But it's probably not going to be Android.
Probably not. I mean, it seems a foregone conclusion that it's definitely going to be online.
Why wasn't online more of a thing?
It's really. Man,
I mean, it was poorly managed. There's no question about that. But it's
huge
like
problems there.
That could have been it. Cloud gaming.
It's really neat, and a lot of people. I'd say the vast majority of people don't have internet fast enough to give a quality experience.
I mean, we're not super far off from that. We're not, and a lot of people.
We were 5 years ago.
We were 5 years ago, but certainly, these people, people who are going out and buying an Xbox 360, who are buying a PlayStation 4, probably got pretty fast internet at home for the most part, right?
For the most part,
yeah.
I think we live in a relatively safe internet bubble because we live in the city and we work online.
I agree, but I'm wondering. I'm sorry, we're getting way into gaming here, but we got Ben on the show.
Let's talk about it.
It's a rare treat. I'm wondering how much on live and Sony's effort kind of salted the earth there. Like, are people just gonna not go back to cloud gaming?
I think that there's a lot of interest in cloud gaming, but the way that it was being applied with OnLive is difficult technologically, even now with
Just
internet.
and
the way that Sony's handling it is much more interesting in that they are using it to offload certain things, right? So, like, if you download a huge game, some of that initial game might be streamed, and that enables you to start playing it immediately. So it's like they're leveraging cloud services to do something unique and make something quicker, but they're not making the entire gameplay experience dependent on that one thing, right? Like, and those are the two. There's major differences between those approaches. And OnLive's approach is whole cloth. Like, you're streaming everything. This whole game is Source Cloud. And
the upside though is that you're not buying a $500 machine.
That certainly helps. Yeah, absolutely.
I did have.
Well, they were marketing hardcore games through OnLive though.
Yeah.
So they're marketing hardcore games to a casual crowd, and those people don't want to buy those games.
I don't know. Do you
want to spend $60 to rent a cloud game?
I'm not much of a gamer, but I don't know if I would say, because I do feel like hardcore gaming is kind of mainstream enough at this point.
Yeah.
I do remember, like, I did have we've probably talked about this before as OnLive was kind of like crashing and burning, but like it's one of the things that I can point to since I've been doing this job where, like, I got a demo of it and I'm like, that's gonna change everything. Like, I remember like them showing it to me on a Mac when gaming on a Mac is still not great, but when it was crazy, right? Sure. That I could play like the latest game on my Mac.
It's still really impressive, right? Like, the technology and the concept are incredible. It's that they had no business strategy and hired way too many people, and that was much more of the problem than the fact that it was like, it wasn't just the service that was the problem. It was like the fact that they were a poorly run business. And that's like, I mean, you know.
Yep.
We know.
We had some conversations.
There were some conversations. I think I was at Gamescom last year when that happened. Maybe that was last year.
No, you were here. I don't remember.
No, I was definitely transcribing from Germany.
I just remember Brian got stuck on that story, and he was reporting it like late into the afternoon. It was getting to be nightfall. You were still in that story.
It was bad. It was very bad.
It was unfolding.
That was interesting. Even
that was actually worth it. Man. Okay, so we don't have a ton of time because we do have something that we need to run to soon. But I think we can actually probably make a pretty smooth segue as I load this story.
You know how I know it's a smooth segue? That you called it a smooth segue.
To the Chromecast.
Yeah, talk about another review where I was really pleasantly surprised by what the author had to say.
Yeah, that was Gormania, right?
Mm-hmm. It was Gormania, yeah.
Michael Gorman.
Yes.
Gormania. To be clear.
Gormania is what we all have when we're around.
That's exactly right.
I think maybe in the back of my mind, I know that this isn't totally logical, but I think in the back of my mind at this time last year, we had the Nexus 7, which we loved, and we still love, and there was the Nexus Q. It was sort of the oddball, unexpected product that I'm trying to use a word that's not a 4-letter word right now, but that everyone panned.
Ball. Oh, shoot.
Yeah. 6-letter word for you. Everyone panned it. So this year, I mean, Chromecast was sort of this year's oddball, unexpected announcement, but we actually love it. And a lot of other reviews that I've read are really praising of it. I guess it's a lot of it has to do with both the simplicity and the price is really what seals it.
People can forgive oddball when it's $35. I mean, that's an investment. I think that
if it were a different price, people might be harder on that sort of the half-baked browser experience, the lack of apps that support the technology. But right now, for $35, it just seems like you can hardly go wrong.
There's also no question that, like, Google being Google, I mean, they're going to improve all the software experiences.
For me, it seems like maybe it's just because I don't have I have so many solutions for that already, right? Like, I already have a dozen other ways I could watch Netflix or YouTube or whatever else on my television, so it seems like a strange thing to me.
Well, but what's nice is that the people who buy this don't already have some sort of extra set-top box, and at the same time, the product is not only cheap, but really simple to use, like idiot-proof. So I think they got that combination right, the price, the idiot-proofness, and...
Idiot-proofness.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
They did not get the Netflix deal right, however. They ran out of that. They ran out of free Netflix accounts in under 24 hours.
Yeah, that was really very quick.
That's a shame.
I think it's a testament to they didn't know quite how well this thing was going to
It's also like 3 months of Netflix. If you
even
pay
for people who have a current
Chromecast,
subscription.
Totally.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You are paying for your subscription.
It would be about, like, I think $10. I think it was like $24, but it's I mean it's still a crazy deal.
Yes, that's a super good deal.
Again, I mean, if you don't have a Roku, I wonder how many people that actually applies to. If you don't have a Roku, if you don't have an Apple TV, if you don't have a PlayStation, if you don't have any of those boxes and you do have a HD TV, I mean,
But you also have an HDTV and a smart device.
Well, I would say a safe number of people have smartphones right now.
And HDTV, but no media streaming box of any type.
Apparently enough people to make them run out of...
I think my biggest... The thing that was weirdest to me is that it seems like smart TVs are like solving this so quickly that... I don't know. I don't know how many people are there that have HDTVs that aren't smart TVs but also have smart devices. Like,
I think the question more is how many people have smart TVs. Like, I don't know that any of the smart TVs...
And when are people upgrading?
Really? No?
Yeah, I don't think
it's just you don't upgrade TVs that often, and I don't know how many people truly have them. I mean,
I don't have a smart TV, so
I don't. My TV is from 2008. It's 720p.
I'm with you.
Same thing. But on top of all those things, I mean, this is really the easiest way to use your smartphone to control your system. I mean, you don't have to go through a number of hoops as you do on a lot of the other boxes. It's a great solution, and being able to actually like do other things on your phone while it's playing. I mean,
sure, it's neat. There's nothing wrong with it. Absolutely. I wish they had shown, like, when they showed it at the event. He just like plugged it into a TV and was like, "It's that simple," and everybody went "Wah!" because that's what happens at these events. But it actually plugs into USB or separate power somewhere, and for like a little stick. Like, I know this is a weird thing, but my Ouya falls over all the time because of plugs. Like, it's not heavy enough to handle there being plugs coming out of it.
Yeah.
And the Chromecast is a little USB. It's like a little HDMI stick.
I mean, the dongle.
I worry it would get pulled out of the TV. Maybe that's just
the dongle. The dongle has been mastered.
I hope so. The powered dongle. The separately powered dongle.
Well, I mean, by all accounts, it's as easy to work as everybody says it is. Also, I just want to point out the fact that, like, you're saying this might be kind of a niche device, but you just spent 45 minutes defending the Shield.
I know.
This is a much more populous device than the Shield.
Absolutely by so far. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I just understand this one more than the other one.
Sure. Great. I'm going to give you the choice of what we talk about next because, again, don't have a ton of time.
You're talking to the bird, aren't you?
To the bird. What is that? Bird seed? You want to talk about poles and pigs stealing your eggs? Well, I guess we're going to talk about that.
Done.
We've got a bunch of reviews to go down. We've got the HTC One Mini. We've got the Galaxy Tab 3, the Asus Memo Pad. There's a lot of different pieces of Asus news. That
one is buy, one is don't buy, one is maybe buy.
Let's do a new
with a price drop
called Buy Don't Buy. I'm gonna
lightning review round with Dan.
Yeah, I'm gonna name some things. I don't know. Do you want to give context or do you want to just say one word?
I can give you a short answer.
Give me a sentence of context for each of these things. Let's just start from the tip top. Nexus 7.
Buy.
Okay. Chromecast.
Buy.
Okay. NVIDIA Shield.
Maybe buy.
Maybe buy. One sentence of context.
Depends whether you want an excellent and whether you want.
Do you like excellence?
Excuse me. I'm going to start that over.
Okay.
It depends whether you're looking at it more as a cheap tablet replacement or an expensive gaming handheld.
Like it.
Ben's shaking his head in approval.
Nodding.
So
even.
I give tacit approval.
This is a tough one. HTC One Mini.
Buy, but wait for a price drop.
Okay. It's already a mid-tier phone right now.
It's a mid-tier phone. It's unlocked, so we're talking about the price versus other mid-range unlocked phones that are sold in Europe. It's considering that it's priced at what it's considering that they removed certain features from the HTC One, but didn't cut the price that much.
Yeah.
You should probably wait for a price drop.
Didn't make as many sacrifices as the S4 though.
I think we generally like the One Mini better than
Screen's
the S4
much better.
Mini. Yeah, the One Mini is an awesome, really pleasant to use phone. It's just given that they cut out certain of the bells and whistles but didn't cut the price that much, you might want to wait for the inevitable price drop.
Asus Memo Pad HT7.
I was going to say buy, now I'm going to say maybe buy. Because for a budget tablet, it's $150 here in the US. It's actually a pretty great tablet.
Yeah.
But you could get the Nexus 7 for an extra $80. So it really depends on what $80 means to you.
Can you give us kind of a quick comparison between the two? I mean, we're talking about two Asus 7-inch tablets.
Yeah, they're both Asus made. They're both 7-inch tablets. The Memo Pad HG7 has a lower res screen. The build quality is generally not quite as nice, and on the inside it's not as fast. It has the processor just can't match what's inside the Nexus 7. So it costs less, and it's a lesser product. But for compared to all the other $150 or so tablets, it's pretty good. It's just a question of what does that $80 mean to you? Do you want to save the $80, or would you rather? Is it worth it to you to just spend the $80 extra and get the Nexus 7?
Also, what, 4.2 on it?
Yes, but with 4.3 coming, says the company.
Cool. So
sweet.
People are going to spend a lot of money. People will be buying a lot of products at the end of the show. I did want to actually talk about it because, for some reason, the mini phone is kind of in the zeitgeist right now. The budget phone. I mean, it was a little
so weird.
The mini phones that by standards of a few years ago are not actually that miniature.
Right. That's I was literally just about to say that. Like, none of these phones are small in my in the context of normalcy to me. I don't know.
Mini by price, maybe. I mean, because I wanted to use this to bring up the fact that there's a lot of rumors going around about a low cost iPhone right now with a pretty chintzy looking back when you get right down to it.
5C, is it?
Yeah, that's what they're calling it. Rumor. I mean, there are a lot of leaked documents and pictures from Chinese sites of weirdly exclusively the back shell and a lot of boxes we've been seeing.
Yeah,
I mean, nobody's gonna be surprised if this thing comes out.
Right. It seems more credible than it did to me a few weeks ago. That's for sure. But we still haven't seen anything super credible.
I mean, there's no question that Apple...
Didn't they straight out say they're not going to make a budget phone? And isn't the iPhone 4 already doing super well as their budget phone?
They've said a lot of things that they've sort of backtracked, especially as they changed.
That's fair.
As they changed CEO and as the market kind of changed around them. But I do agree with you that from a certain perspective, it doesn't make a ton of sense to come out with a budget phone if your model has always been to keep the last phone around and to kind of deeply discount the price. So, are we talking about... I don't know what we're talking about.
Maybe it's a phone for emerging markets.
Man, that
would have like an Apple thing to do at all.
It would have to be a really inexpensive phone for Apple to target emerging markets. For them to attempt to compete with Android, to a lesser degree, like Nokia and Windows Phone, even Mozilla is trying to get on that game. So I don't know. Although they are not emerging market, but they are. Tim Cook was reportedly. I mean, he was in Beijing and he was talking to the CEO of China Mobile and reportedly talking about bringing it over there. So maybe it might make more sense in that market. But right now, I don't really see a super compelling reason to come out with this unless it's really, really cheap. I mean, they would have to undercut the price of the last generation. Isn't that what the iPod Touch is?
I guess, man. I think it's nuts that kids have phones like that, but it's totally possible. I don't know. I mean,
isn't that what your old phone is for? That you just hand it off
honestly, yes.
Yeah, but I certainly I think there's no question that they've been toying with the idea, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of like the last example of something that Apple has come out with where they've kind of. I mean, they had the iBook a long time ago, but for the most part, they haven't really gone out of their way to make budget versions. They're the premium company. They want to make something that looks really nice. And like, honestly, looking at the back of this phone, I mean, this is like
it looks a little
Galaxy
rough.
S3.
It looks Fisher-Pricey
territory. It's just kind of
not great.
We'll see. I mean, I'm not saying it's a good idea, but I feel like this would not be the first time recently that Apple has caved to pressure.
Sure.
Market pressure, consumer pressure otherwise. I mean, that's what the iPad mini is, right? Mm-hmm. Either market demand for a smaller tablet or just enough people saying you should really do this already.
Which is fine. I totally understand. I understand coming out with a different size device, and certainly they changed the size of the iPhone, and that was due to the market. But like to actually go so far as to come out with not only a budget device, but it kind of cheap looking budget device. That's
the leaks we've seen so far look cheap.
Yeah. So. Again, I'm saying if this what we're seeing right now does come to fruition, I mean,
it looks better or worse than like the iPhone 3G when it came out.
I'd say it looks marginally better.
Era,
again, we're getting into HTC Mini territory here, which is like everything has moved so fast you can't compare anything to what it was 4 or 5 years ago.
No, I just think classic iPhone. I think.
Yeah.
Okay, that's at least like.
A thing that existed that I
can picture it. It wasn't so bad. I don't know if I'd want it today, but yeah.
Victor Wu says C for China. Boom.
Says what?
C for China.
Okay, great. All right.
iPhone 5C. C for
China. C for China.
Boom. Case closed.
Damn it. Got it.
C is for China.
Case closed. We do not have a ton of time because we do have to run to something right after this. So I'm going to open it up to questions in chat if anybody's got any questions.
If anybody has sandwich questions. sandwich questions.
Sure.
Here for you.
Catfish or?
I had pulled pork today, but they do have a mean catfish. Blackened catfish.
Pretty good.
Delicious.
Get some sriracha on that.
I did. I put some sriracha on it.
Yep. Yeah, condiment related questions. I mean, we're open to anything at this point.
Do you know that sriracha was created in California?
Well, that line, the cock sauce version is
right.
Yeah.
Specifically that one.
Yeah, I mean, sriracha is the sauce, not the.
Yes,
company.
that's fair. That's
anyway.
fair. All right. Excuse me.
See, the reason why Motorola is not making the flagship Android handset, Ben, is because sriracha is the name of the sauce, not a company.
Okay. All right. That's my bad.
The C is for cock sauce.
All right. I'm still disappointed that Moto X didn't take. Nobody's calling it that.
It's still early in the game. I mean, the phone's not even available.
I got time.
Yeah. You work for Engadget. You could be the person to put that in the
review's coming up
zeitgeist.
soon. Maybe you can persuade Joseph.
I could see
Except
a
don't,
mean
because
like
I'm going to
a,
edit that out.
like a.
Oh no, we're talking. Well,
I got through some amazing things through my review. I got little baby fingers in my review. I got stuff that I was sure you were going to edit out, and you didn't. And
Dana had a really long week.
Yeah.
Also, she doesn't control the video, which is really when we're talking about pronouncing this thing out loud.
Indeed,
that's what it comes down to. Couple more things out of Asus, and this actually came out of a conversation with Johnny Shee, who
that was with Richard Lai. I want to say
no. All Things D.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Kind of the Richard Lai of tech applications. I don't know.
Sure.
He made a couple of interesting statements. One of them, I think, was on. They didn't go so far as saying that they're not going to support Windows RT in the future, but it sure sounds like.
Is anyone? Or is anyone supporting Windows RT?
I mean,
in the future?
that would
Microsoft.
Logical. Samsung decided they got in early and just decided nope. Nope.
Right.
Yeah.
It pulled its RT tablet. I know from certain markets abroad. I think in the U.S. too, or no, maybe I have that backwards. I think they may have not released it in the U.S. ever. I think it just never reached the U.S. market. So Samsung made that. Yeah, Samsung made that decision early, and it seems like Asus is coming to regret supporting RT.
Yeah, I mean, this was an operating system that was supported by companies that are kind of known for making as many products as possible and trying as many platforms as possible.
What's that company that makes all the Arcos? They probably made an RT thing, right? Did they have an RT thing?
No.
No. That is surprising.
That'd be great to see.
Lenovo does, Dell does, also.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we just didn't realize how great the latest Intel Atom processors are in terms of tablet-style performance, but also battery life for those products. If you have a processor like that, you get the performance, you get the battery life, and you can run full Windows, which kind of makes RT obsolete. And Asus, as it happens, has one of our favorite Atom-powered Windows 8 tablets. So,
but I
don't know if they need this.
But I mean, we've been asking what the point of RT is pretty much since the beginning. I mean,
looks like companies are starting
asking that question.
How did they not ask that from the beginning?
I'm wondering,
how did anybody look at RT and not say this is a terrible idea?
I don't know. I mean, I'm wondering.
I'm baffled by the concept of RT's existence.
Microsoft had to have kind of greased the wheels on that one a little bit, right, to get people to support RT.
Like, just shelled out lots of money, I'm sure, because there's no other logical reason that any company would sign on to that.
I don't know, and I don't know to what extent companies underestimated Intel chips, or whether Intel chips weren't immediately ready to, in full volume or something. I don't know, but Intel also has a lot of serious negotiating power behind the scenes, and Intel is also known to twist some arms, so no pun intended.
Does Suge Knight work there? Is that what you're saying? They were hanging people out of windows and stuff?
Yeah.
And nobody, not early 90s rap references?
No. I just have to wonder.
In this scenario?
I have to wonder if for some reason at that time, if Atom-powered, like, low-power x86 tablets were somehow less viable to these companies, but I wouldn't know.
As a consumer, like, how does anybody, like, I don't understand how the consumer perspective on that, like, how no company looks at that from the consumer side and says, like, this seems like a terrible idea ecosystem-wise. Like,
it doesn't
make any sense.
I think it's a case of companies who, again, have enough money to try everything. And they tried it, it didn't work, they're moving on.
I guess,
so should we, I think.
I gotta get in one of these positions where these companies they should just try all that money on me, and I can just go do whatever they want. I could just go throw things at people, I could get into fights, I could do whatever. I could yell at people.
Pay money to,
I could throw myself off of things, whatever. Just
watch
try
you cut
things
yourself out
me.
of a shark.
Just
a market, as they are moving away from RT, Asus is looking, however, to break into the U.S. smartphone market. It's going to be a tough tough road to hoe, but
tough road to hoe.
Yeah, hoe. Tough road to hoe. But I will say this about them. I mean, they've been kind of taking the time. They've been meeting with all the big retailers. They've been meeting with all the carriers. I mean, if you want to do it, it's exactly what you have to do. But man, that's going to be tough. I mean, HTC. Look at HTC. Look at LG. Look at all these companies that just already have a foothold and just can't break the Samsung Apple stranglehold.
I feel like if you just make something really nice, that goes a long way. The HTC One, like, I'm not a huge... I know this is an obvious statement, but, like, HTC One is such a nice thing that I've been like, I am not an Android person at all, and I'm coming around to that as a thing that I might want to buy. Right?
Yeah, but does that translate into a very successful handset?
What do you mean, does it translate into sales, making something good? That tends to work, yes.
But has it?
Not always, but it does work.
I'm saying that HTC is making a really good phone, and they had made really good phones, but it's still really hard.
Part of that is the marketing money that they need to invest, and they haven't done a huge job in that, and they've talked about that a little bit.
They don't pay Jay-Z to...
Right. That makes a huge difference. Yeah. But it's also just... I don't know. Like, the problem with HTC for me in the past has also been they have a trillion different devices that are all pretty similar to each other, right? There's like the One X and the 8X and all these different...
So does Samsung, though.
Silly names, and that's another reason why I don't own a Samsung device. You're absolutely right.
But it works for them.
But I also see their flagships, right? Like, I know out of all the bullshit that Samsung has, they have the Note 2 and they have the Galaxy S4 as those are like the two phones that I need to care about as a consumer, because through their marketing, they've shown me that, right?
It's the same. I mean, it's the same with HTC. They do have a flagship device.
And I think that they've done a better job of showing that as their flagship device.
But again, it hasn't
in the past they haven't done that.
Dominate the market.
Totally. And again, this could be a question just of marketing and Jay-Z's fault. I as often as possible, I try to defer to Jay-Z as his fault.
Bad record, though,
but
right?
That Magna Carta, there's just some pretty bad songs on there.
It's not a good... That first song is just... It's all just
I saw him in Yankee Stadium,
singing. That's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool.
We'll have to talk about that later because we're all out of time, although we do have a question. I'm going to shoot this over to Dana. Sean Olison in chat wants to know, should he buy a new Nexus 7 or a used Nexus 7 from last year and save some money?
I would just get the new one.
Get a new one, Sean.
I don't know your budget. I don't want to make too many presumptions, but if it were me, I mean...
Stop presuming about him.
Look, if you're getting a tablet, you have some disposable income anyway. It's not a necessity. You can live without a tablet, especially if you have a smartphone. If it were me, I would get the new one. You're going to benefit from some performance gains that you're not going to get just by upgrading the software on the old version. The screen is much better, and everyone loves a great screen on a tablet. That's kind of what they're all about, the viewing experience. I would just get the new one.
Sure.
Thinner, lighter. Who doesn't want a thinner, lighter tablet?
Yep.
It'll make you feel better longer, too.
The only thing is that, a little bit of a dip in battery life, but, maybe if you keep the brightness settings much lower than we did, it'll be better for you.
There you go. Buy new, Sean. Buy low, sell high.
That's right.
When you presume, you make a
pre out of assume and
Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, sure.
Real Ben Gilbert on Twitter.
Not that fake one.
Not the fake Ben Gilbert on Twitter. Guys,
you should really hound at Ben Gilbert to give me his stupid name.
Guy's a monster. Dana at Dana Woolman on Twitter.
Yes.
Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll be back next week. We got to go run to something right now.
We do have to go run to something.
I'm gonna get a sandwich.
You're gonna get another sandwich?